All right. You
All
ready to get
the all
started?
the all the Maryland guys in the NBA.
That's right. Yeah, you look just like him.
Sure.
There you go. All right. Let's go ahead and get started.
All
You
right.
ready?
Yep.
All right.
Ready as we're going to
Welcome.
be.
Oh, stop it. The executive producer's in there giving me a hard time. She's completely thrown me off my rhythm. So I don't know
Well,
how to start again
that's a personal issue that we really don't need on this.
on this fine
Yeah.
show. All right, here we go. All right. Let me get my drink of water and we'll be ready to go. All right. Welcome to episode 10 of the Grumpy Brothers Sports Show on Millions. I am Chris Ludvigson, joined by Ted. Say hey, Ted.
Hey,
Hey, that's all we get.
that's all
Thank
you
you
get
to
on
our
this. Yeah.
listeners. Please subscribe to us on our weekly podcast, also on Apple Podcast, Spotify, or Odyssey. And we will also continue to do these Millions streams. Our topic tonight is a single topic with the NBA playoffs that, Ted, I guess the first question is, do you consider the play-in games the playoffs?
I don't, but I think they're a lot like the NCAA with their, it's essentially a play-in, right?
I do. I actually have kind of grown in. I've come to like the play-in games.
Well,
Like,
the thing I do like about them is because I was on and I still am. I still for baseball where they would have the one playoff game and everybody's yeah. So it is nice where in some cases it's you got to win or you're out.
now, I will say this. This year is kind of unique in the sense that, and we're going to talk about very briefly the play-in games that are starting momentarily. If I'm a Miami Heat fan and they lose tonight to the
Yeah.
Bulls without Jimmy Butler, which is a possibility.
Oh, I think that's a definite.
I
don't think I'm pretty sure he's not playing.
Oh no! He's definitely not playing. My point is, they could lose without him.
Yeah,
With
they could.
Jimmy, I would put it at a 75% chance that they would win that game. Without him, I think it's a much different situation. But if I'm a Heat fan, I would be unhappy about the play-in this year because they were the 8th seed.
Yeah, right.
And now, because of the whole, he could have injured his knee in the first game of the regular playoffs, but
right,
he might not have because that was a bit of a freak situation. And I'm also not a fan if this year the Bulls get in with a sub 500 record. I mean,
but that's part of this thing is that you're always going to have a chance of having, the 11 team or whatever number they're
10th,
at.
10th is the lowest you can go.
Yeah, but okay, 10th, but you could always have 10 being sub 500.
Well, you could have 8. You could have number 8 be sub 500.
Yeah. I mean,
and I guess it's the same thing as I guess just most recently the NFC South team. 2 years ago the Bucks made it at 8 and 9. So it happens. Okay. So let's start with the two play-in games really quickly. Bulls Heat tonight, Eastern play-in game. I would normally love the Heat at home.
Right.
But with Jimmy out, I think it's a 50-50. It's a toss-up game.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, anybody can win one game without one guy, right?
Yeah.
So even if they win, they're going to play the Celtics. They're going home.
All right.
I'm just saying, more than likely they're going.
Yeah,
home.
I agree. I think the rest now for the Bulls, while he's not as good a player, Zach LaVine is out also.
Yeah.
Patrick Williams, their young forward, is also out. But for the Heat, Terry Rozier is also out.
Right.
And I really like Rozier. I think he fits perfectly to the Heat. So Bam's got to be huge. Tyler Hero's got to be really good.
9 for 27. The other one.
Was that what he was?
Oh, I don't know. I saw something where Jimmy Butler was giving him a hard time during a game. He's like, 9 for 27, man.
Yeah, Tyler's not seen a Heat shot that he doesn't like.
Time to pass. You're 9 for 27 tonight.
But, Tyler Hero is one of those players that could get crazy hot for a game and shoot him into the playoffs.
Right. He could shoot. He could score 40 tonight, and they could sneak in. Yeah.
And the one other thing I'll say is I'm almost certain that Eric Spoelstra is going to figure out a defensive scheme that stops Kobe White from going for 42 again for the Bulls?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Pat Riley will come out of the stands and tackle him. I think you could still do it.
So if you're betting your last dollar tonight, do you bet on the Heat or do you bet on the Bulls? Straight up.
If I had to make a bet, I would probably bet on the Bulls because they're a little younger, and I don't know. It just I just like them a little bit more.
I would probably go the other way if for no other reason than, well, Billy Donovan's a very good coach. So
yeah,
but the Heat are one of those teams like we talk about all the time in sports that certain teams, until they lose, you think they're always going to win in these kinds of situations. And the Heat have become one of those teams. They've earned the right. They've earned the right for me to bet on them, even though I shouldn't.
Right.
So I think I'd probably go the Heat to somehow figure out a way to squeak out a 101-97 kind of game.
Well, that may be, but I think that sometimes there's just a time for a change in the guard or whatever.
And there's also something to be said for the Heat sort of had that magical run last season. It's very difficult to have those magical runs
again and
multiple years in a row.
Yeah. Yeah, they're not so magical if they happen every year.
No, exactly. It's not Butler if it happens more than twice a year, 2 years in a row. The Pelicans and the Kings are another fascinating game. I watched a lot of the Lakers-Pelicans game, and until Zion hurt his hand, to me, that game was Zion in a nutshell. There was a while where he was with AD and LeBron on the court. Zion was the best player on the court that night.
Sure. Yeah.
And he's in good shape. And and I've heard a lot of people say AD's the best interior defender in the league, and he had no answers for Zion.
Right.
But then of course Zion gets hurt and it all goes out. Yeah. So Zion so now the question is, who do you like in this game? The Kings on the road coming into New Orleans without Zion.
I'm going to go with the Kings because they've kind of been there the last couple of years.
And here's something else. I was watching Colin Cowherd today, and he was picking the playoff series. He was picking all of them. One of the points that he made multiple times, particularly when there was a series that he thought was tight, he would say this team or that team will have the best player on the court. And like when Michael Jordan was the best player, his team's always won. Now Jokic is the best player and his team's wins, right?
Right.
So in basketball, when you have who is clearly the best player, that's an advantage. And I think in this game tonight with Zion out, I think the best player on the court is De'Aaron Fox.
Could be. Ingram's pretty good. Is he playing tonight?
Well, that's the thing. If you noticed, what I found fascinating, again, I was watching a lot of that game, and from the second quarter into the fourth quarter, the Lakers had built a double-digit lead. I think at one point got up to like 15 or 18 points. And it was interesting that Ingram was playing, and he wasn't being very effective. And when they made their run, he was actually off the court. And instead of him, they had that little guard Alvarado.
Oh, okay.
Who played great. Yeah. Defensively, he made some shots. He was playing great. And the coach, for his credit, just said, no, Brandon, we're good. You just sit over there. But the crazy thing is, even after Zion went down, and you would have thought, okay, we need another scorer on the court, he didn't put Ingram back in for the last couple minutes of the game.
He had a late season injury, and maybe he's still fighting that. Or maybe he's pulling a Scottie Pippen when they gave the shot to Kukoc, and he just, said, I'm not coming out.
I think it's a issue of him, because they talked about how they had transitioned to Zion playing sort of a point forward position. And you almost wonder if Ingram was not only rusty, his game was rusty, but he was also trying to figure out how to play with that offensive team.
Yeah, sure. If he hasn't done it much except in practice, it's a whole different thing.
So it's entirely possible that for the Pelicans to win tonight, Ingram has to shake off all of his rust and put up at least 25.
Okay. Yeah, somebody's got to come up with Zion's points. So
Right. But now I love the Kings' momentum. The winner. But see, here's the thing. It's fascinating, Ted. This is one of these rivalries that, because we don't live on the West Coast, we don't understand its intensity. From what I understand, the Sacramento Golden State rivalry is a big thing.
Well, they're reasonably close together in terms of geography, so it makes sense. Yeah.
Right. And all of the recent success that the Warriors have had,
right,
I think it's led to a little bit of that. And of course, last year, Steph put up 50 in Game 7, knocked the Kings out. So the question is, are the Kings riding high with emotion and, hey, we can do no wrong after beating the dreaded Warriors, granted only in one game?
Yeah.
And secondly, or is it that they're so jacked up that they'll be like, not ready to play tonight?
Yeah, it could be. But you won't know until they play. But I believe, because they've been there more recently than New Orleans, that I think they'll be okay.
Yeah. So you've got the Kings.
Kings. Yeah.
I think I agree with you. I think they're going to take the Warriors win momentum and really run with it and think, okay, we're ready to go now. And they've been playing better at the end of the year. And I think the Pelicans team is just, McCollum didn't shoot that well the other night. You almost wonder if he's kind of like getting to the end of his run. And the big center, he's okay. And they've got a couple, Murphy's a nice outside shooter. They got a lot of nice pieces, but until there's the star there to kind of work everybody also. So they need Ingram to go back to being a star tonight.
Well, yeah. I mean, he was the star until Zion showed up and actually started playing some games. Because there was a while where Zion was there, but he didn't play. So,
and I'm going to get completely off the track here. But which team was I thinking about that I read? Somebody was saying, okay, if this team loses, would you blow them up? And I'm trying to remember which one they were, because I was actually thinking, is Ingram the kind of guy that you would trade for that guy, for this other guy straight up? And I'm trying to remember who that was, because anyway, let me see if I can come back to that. But let's get to the series now. Let's begin with the East. So the 1-8 series is going to be the Celtics against either the Heat or the Bulls. And Jimmy, I don't think is going to play in that.
No, he's supposed to be out for weeks. Yeah. I mean, if he was to come back, it would probably be like the finals.
So this would, if the Heat had won the play-in with Jimmy tonight, this would be a fascinating series because of what happened last year. And if the Heat went into Boston and won Game 1 after beating them last year, how would you like to be a talk radio host in Boston on Monday morning?
Oh, it's great, because you can just scream and holler and do whatever. But
or you could just say the Celtics are terrible and open up the mic, and you wouldn't have to talk for the next 4 hours.
Right. Yeah. What's wrong with the Celtics? Here we go, and then just let everybody in. Yeah.
Right. Now, if the Heat somehow get past the Bulls without Jimmy, I give them a 5% chance of beating the Celtics in a seventh.
Yeah, they're. It's unlikely that they would beat them. I think that they'd probably win a game somewhere. Now, I'd have a hard time even seeing it go 6.
And with the Bulls, same thing.
Yeah, well, it might go 6 if they're a little healthier, maybe. I don't know.
So the Celtics won the East, Ted, by 14 games.
Yeah, they had a really great regular season. Yeah.
Okay. Are you convinced? I'm trying to figure out the right way to ask the question. Are you convinced that this is a no-brainer? See them in the finals. They should run past everybody in the East.
Well, I mean, you look at the rest of the teams. Milwaukee may or may not have
Giannis.
Right. They may not get out of the first round.
And
Indiana's pretty good.
And Ted, we're going to talk about that in a little bit. I forgot to look at it. The Bucks have not been playing great down the stretch.
No, I mean, this has been their to me. This has always been their problem. Is their so dependent on him for so much.
Well, let's hold that until we get to the Bucks Pacers series.
But I mean, I think that I think the Celtics, to me, if the Celtics run into any stumbling blocks, it would be Philadelphia if Embiid is in condition. Because he can play. You can clearly say he can play, but can he play 40 minutes, seven nights?
Games at an elite level?
Yeah, right. Because if he can't, then they're unlikely to beat the Celtics.
So of the next 8 teams, you put the Sixers as their biggest threat.
To me, I guess they have the guy.
They have the guy.
They have the guy, and they have other spot pieces that are pretty good. And they went to the last year. They were a little disappointed. Did they go to the conference finals last year?
No. So that's the thing about Embiid. And Embiid has never won more than one playoff round in a season.
But I just think that there was 1 year they played, 2 years ago they played the Celtics in game.
Well, there was the year they lost to the Raptors when Kyrie.
No, I'm not talking about that. No, there was 1 year, didn't they play the Celtics in the playoffs? And they had
the Celtics have always had their number. But I
mean, they had a knockdown.
Yes, they did. They had a good series. Yes, they did. Yeah. Yes, they did. Here's my point about the Celtics, Ted. If somebody takes them to a 7th game, they are so dependent on shooting threes.
Yeah.
Well,
that's almost everybody.
Yeah, but they've even got Porzingis out there at the top of the key.
Yeah, but that's what he's always done. He's always
liked to live out there. There's got to, at some point.
Here's what I like about the Celtics, other than Jason Tatum, right? They have your guy. Holiday. Your guy. He's won. He knows how to do this. And I think for one game, if they got to a 7th game and guys were jacking up threes, he could go and say, "Listen, guys, we can take it inside. Or he can penetrate and dump it off." I think having that guy in that position with the ball in his hand so much will benefit them enormously.
And here's the other thing that I'm fascinated to see. If 7th game, minute left, tie score, 30 seconds left, tie score, or they're down 1.
Whatever, yeah.
I don't think Jason Tatum, for as great as he is, has the Jordan, Kobe mentality of give me the ball, get out of my way, I'm going to go get us 2.
Well, you know what I think is going to happen? I think Holiday is going to put the ball in his hands and say, "Go get him, big fella. Yeah, you're the guy." Because he had that guy.
Have that built into your head. Can someone put it in your head?
Well, maybe if he makes a shot like that, all of a sudden it gives him a little more confidence. But I think just giving him the ball might be just enough confidence where he doesn't have to make a decision. He gives it to him with 10 seconds or 5 seconds on the shot clock. You got to shoot.
And then runs out of the way.
Yeah, right.
Because here's the thing, Ted. I actually think that in that situation, Jaylen Brown would actually go get the ball because I think he
might be. Yeah,
I think he has that mentality. But everybody talks about Jason Tatum being one of the 5 best players in the NBA or close to it.
They gave him a lot of money.
They gave Brown a lot of money.
And they gave Holiday a lot of money. So maybe Holiday.
I keep on hearing how the NBA salary cap is changing. And it's going to be implemented in the next couple of years. I guess they'll just run 4 guys out on the court, and I don't know. Maybe the trainer will be the 5th player. I don't know.
It'd be like that movie Hoosiers when they have one little guy.
my team's on the court. I'm playing with 4.
And the trainer, yeah.
Yeah, Ollie with the blonde crew cut,
and the underhand free throw.
Yeah, the granny shot. All right, let's click over to the Knicks and the Sixers, Ted.
Yeah.
So I said that the Celtics won the East by 14 games. Between teams 2 and 8 in the East, there was a 4-game difference. So when I look at these series, I can make a case for any one of these teams winning these other series.
Yes, but Philadelphia was, I mean, I was surprised at how far they had fallen when because when the playoffs started, because
they were like
Embiid,
a 3 or 4 seed before Embiid got hurt. They were like a 3 or I think they were a 3 seed.
Yeah, and the what do you call them? The Bucks have not ascended, to anything. So
I think their record has been worse since they made the coaching change.
Oh, come on now, come on. We're gonna give that to Giannis being hurt, right? Because Doc Arbach is the greatest. He seems like a nice guy. There's just too much. There's just too much where he's coming in and he's going to be the cure. And I'm looking around and he had 3 Hall of Famers in Boston and he won a championship. Okay, good. He should. Should.
I think if the Bucks lose the first round this year, I think
gone.
we now have a new nickname for Doc Rivers, Doc Auerbach.
Yeah. But I mean, I think I saw he's like on the hot seat if they don't win the first round, and I don't think that's fair. If Giannis doesn't play, then they could lose. They could lose a 7-game series to the Wizards. I mean, it's bad.
All right, go. Let's come back to the Knicks and the Sixers. Normally, and for the last, ever since Thibodeau has been with the Bulls, I have always not expected much from Thibodeau teams in the playoffs because he coaches his teams so hard in the regular season,
right?
That when they go to the playoffs, everybody else goes up a gear and they go up.
They can't
less than a half a gear.
They can't because they've been playing at that level all year long. Yeah.
Right. So then the other teams catch up with their effort, and then the better players make the difference. You said that you thought the Sixers were the best.
Yes, I think so. If Embiid is in shape, yes.
So this clearly says to you that you like the Sixers definitely over the Knicks.
If Embiid is in shape and he decides to play big boy basketball and get down in the paint and not shoot 30-footers, I mean, who's going to cover him? Who's going to stop him?
Yeah.
They don't have any. Porzingis can't stop him. He's going to have to play old. I think he's going to have to play some old school Moses Malone, going back to the basket and going in hard. And if he does that, I don't think the Knicks can beat him.
I have been amazed when I've watched the Knicks play this year with the Villanova trio. Sometimes Josh Hart, other than the center, is the biggest player on the floor for them. There are times I see they have a team of Brunson and McBride, the small point guard backup.
Yeah.
DiVincenzo, Hart, and one of the 2 centers on the floor. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's the smallest NBA team I've seen ever. I mean, that's smaller than the Knicks with DeBusschere and
Willis
Bradley playing full, and Willis Reed. We've both, I think, been shocked by how Jalen Brunson has become a legitimate superstar.
He has, and in a tough place to do it, where people didn't expect him to, where they were disappointed that that he was their big get. Right.
And he's been great. Now, the only chance I give the Knicks, and the reason I give them a puncher's chance more than let's say 1 in 10 chance, is because the Sixers team has this group. Now, not this exact group, because we're going back to the Harden days and the Ben Simmons days, but the Sixers with Embiid as the centerpiece in the playoffs, in my opinion, have underperformed.
Yes.
And until you get past that, in the same way that I give the Heat the
you don't give the Sixers. You don't give the Sixers.
It's the exact opposite with the Sixers. So
if it becomes a mentally who's stronger game, then the Knicks, are likely to win. And if it becomes who's better physical talent, then the Sixers are likely to win. To me,
now, and it's interesting as I watched the Sixers make a great comeback against the Heat the other night. Daryl Morey, the general manager, at times has been seen as a bit of a odd duck, maybe.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Because he has certain things that he does. I mean, his undying love for James Harden was always, in some of his player choices. But I tell you, Ted, if you watch that game, and whenever I've watched this team, Kelly Oubre, Buddy Hield, and Nick Batum were all brought in this year. And those guys were huge reasons for them beating the Heat.
Well, Buddy Hield, in particular, can get, stupid hot and carry you through a game or two. And that's that. But by naming those three guys, you're like, I'm sitting there going, yeah, because you put those guys out there and you have Embiid, you are better than the Knicks.
Right.
And
then you also have Maxey and Ted. To me, I will always say this. I said it when they had Harden. I even said it when they had Simmons. To me, the key for the Sixers is always Tobias Harris, because there are times he looks like a legitimate NBA star, and there are other times he can't throw it in the ocean.
Yeah.
And when Embiid comes off the floor for his couple of rests a game, they expect Tobias Harris to be the number one scoring option, or at least 1A if Maxey's on the court at the same time. And for them to
get
be
asking a little much. That may be asking a little much, but okay.
But, Ted, let's remember a couple of years ago, they could have had Jimmy Butler or Tobias Harris, and they chose Tobias Harris.
Well, that doesn't mean that he should be their 1A scoring option 3 years later,
But when Embiid is off the court, if it's
Maxey, I understand. Yeah.
He has to be.
Well, what about Buddy Hield?
I like Buddy Hield a lot.
Yeah. That's who I would be giving the ball to. Unless he's having one of those games where he can't throw it in the ocean, and then,
But to me, Hield is also one of those guys that is effective when he's coming off of picks and someone else is driving and there's help and you kick him the ball and he's kind of stepping into an open three. I don't think Buddy Hield's the kind of guy that you give him the ball at the top of the key for a pick and roll and he goes makes his own shot. That's my point. Tobias Harris, I think, is the guy that you say, okay, here you give him the ball at the top of the key and Tobias go get a shot with 6 seconds left on the shot clock.
All right.
And there are times that Harris just doesn't do that. So that's my concern there. But I agree with you. The Sixers have more talent. They should win this series. Okay, let's move on to the one of the series we started talking about, the Bucks and the Pacers. Yeah, and I found it. Last 10 games, the Bucks are 3-7.
Yeah. Well, how many of those games did Giannis play? Because
I think at least the last 3.
Okay. So here's what I read about this, whatever this calf injury is. It's basically the same thing Kevin Durant had when he was in Golden State. And they sat him out through the first couple of rounds of the playoffs, and he comes back in the finals, and he's barely a game in, right? And he blows out his Achilles. If I'm Milwaukee, that cannot happen. I give up this. I cannot do that to this guy. I can't. I got to have him for next year and the year after. If I have to sacrifice this year's playoffs for long-term possible success, I'll tell Doc that, whatever, all bets are off. You're coming back next year if you want to be here, because I can't do that. Can you imagine him blowing out his Achilles and then trying to play the way he does, where Durant's a jump shooter most of the time. He's not. Giannis is going to the basket hard a lot, and then if he has some sort of injury where he can't jump or take something
be
away
explosive,
from it, I've got to be very, very cautious with that. If it's kind of the same thing, I've got to be extremely cautious. And if it's the same thing, remember Durant missed the first till they got out of the West, right? He didn't come back that year until they got to the
I don't
final.
remember exactly when, but your point is well made. Here's my only counter argument to that, Ted. Of their top 7 scorers, the Bucks,
5
are 32 and older.
Yeah. You brought Lillard in. Give him the ball.
I understand that, but did we see how incredibly old and how fast and incredibly old the Warriors got?
Yeah. They
with
played so many
better
games.
players.
They
Klay Thompson is better than a lot of these guys, but he fell off.
Milwaukee has to get younger anyway.
But who do they have on their team that they're going to trade and get anything back of any value? They shot their shot when they got rid of Holiday and brought in Dame.
They're not.
But see, that's my point. I get you have a very
but I cannot risk the franchise. To me, I can't, because if that were to happen, you have now lost him for next year too.
Yeah.
And now on the other hand, you can say, well, if it happens, we lose him for next year. We're old. We have to get rid of all these guys and bring in new guys anyway. If
that were to happen, I almost think that is then the signal that you blow it all up and you start all over.
If they don't win, I think they have to start. I don't know who all the over 32s are, but I'm going to bet Chris Middleton's one.
Middleton, Brook Lopez.
Portis
is 29.
Oh, okay.
28. Giannis is 29. So then you've also got Connaughton, who's in that group.
Giannis's brother.
No, I said the top 7 scorers, Ted. So you got Lopez, Middleton.
Hey, at least he's not banned from the league for betting.
Yeah, good point. Now, okay, let me spin it over this way, Ted. Rick Carlisle is a great coach. Not a good coach, he's a great coach.
Yeah.
Halliburton is a really good player.
Yeah.
I love the trade of Siakam for Siakam. Right. Miles Turner is a perfect third piece.
Right.
I like everything about this team. They showed they can win big games by winning the midseason tournament. My only question is, in a first shot at the playoffs, are they ready to do it?
Well, to me, I would have given them more than a puncher's chance to win anyway.
Even with Giannis. Because of all the reasons you just said. Milwaukee's old, they have all these young guys, and they have a really good coach. I think they can win a round. I don't think they're going to the conference finals, but I think they could win a round anyway. Are you picking them to beat the Bucks?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, all these series other than the Celtics, you could see anybody, right?
That's true.
And I know that experience tends to win in the playoffs, but here you have a coach that knows what he's doing, and a lot of really good young players against. And as Charles Barkley said about the Warriors, old players don't get better.
No,
and the best, and one of the top 2-3 players in the league is probably out for
at least the first 2 games. Maybe longer. Yeah. You're taking an entirely different angle. I think most people are expecting Giannis is going to come back some point in this series.
Maybe it's not the same injury. Maybe it's much less severe and he can easily come back. But if it's questionable as to whether he should even play, and it's potential of what happened with Durant. I can't let him out there. I mean, to me, I know he's going to want to play and all that, but sometimes you have to protect the players from themselves.
Okay, let's move to the last series in the East, Ted, the Cavaliers and the Magic, a 4-5 series. I've said for a couple of years now, I really like the Cavs core.
Yeah.
I like their backcourt, Donovan Mitchell. Now, Donovan Mitchell's been banged up a little bit at the end of the year, hasn't been playing great. They say he's healthy. If he is, with he and Darius Garland, that's a really good backcourt. I love the 2 big guys, Jared Allen and Evan Mobley. I think they're both really good big guys. I like the addition of Max Strus from the Heat and George Niang to give shooting. Karis LeVert is a nice piece off the bench. Love everything about him. The Magic, this is another team that's sort of like the Pacers. I think there's a lot of good future ahead of them.
Yes, yeah.
And I'm kind of surprised they got here so fast.
Yeah, they probably are too.
Markel Banchero, I was surprised he was the number 1 overall pick, but he's proven to be worthy.
Yeah, when you saw him at Duke, you didn't see it, but that's
I
where
saw
the
flashes. There were flashes where he would
yeah,
take
but I mean,
take over a game.
yeah, but that's why the scouts see things in a different way than average people do.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on this series?
I think Cleveland's going to win.
Yeah.
I 6 maybe, 5 or 6.
To me,
but it
wouldn't
shock me if it went 7. But I think
this is a free swing for the Magic.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
You're ahead of schedule. Get some experience.
Could win.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could win, but if you don't, it's okay. You've what was the last time they were in the playoffs? 7, 8 years ago. So,
Yeah. So I agree with you. I as much as I like the Magic and where they're going and everything, I think this is the Cavs series.
You broke up a little bit there, so go ahead and repeat that.
Yeah. Yeah. I as much as I like the Magic going forward, I think this is the Cavs series.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I think so. But like we said, all of these in this middle round or these series, other than the Celtics, could be either team.
Okay, let's move out to the West. And the Thunder and I think we both think it's going to be the Thunder and the Kings.
Yes.
But I think it's okay. Your thoughts on this series?
Well, see, this is the West. To me, you have not only this series, but then the Minnesota series, teams that you weren't expecting to be as highly seeded as they are. So, and Oklahoma City hasn't been in the playoffs in a couple of years. So
I can't remember if they made it or not last year, but your point is well made.
They didn't. They didn't have Holmgren, so I'm not sure that they made it. I can't remember if they made it last year. But if they play the Kings, I mean, the Kings are a nice team, but are they that much? Could they give them that much of are they that much of a threat? If Kevin Huerter's back and playing, I'm sure that he will lead them.
Huerter's out for the season.
Well, then that's no good. They have no chance whatsoever.
We kind of joke about Huerter, but he's one of these guys that I think just makes everybody else a little better. He
can do everything. He does everything.
Do everything, and he doesn't demand the ball, and he's just a good player. I said that I liked the Pacers, and I liked what the Magic were doing. I love the Thunder.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that they've got a bunch of players that are all sort of have the same qualities. They're long physically. Yeah. So they're interchangeable defensively. I think they're all athletic enough that they're interchangeable defensively. They can all handle the ball.
Right.
And they can all go for 20 any given night or maybe even more. They've got multiple players that are all sort of fit the same category. I like that. I like the way the team is constructed. Alexander has proven to be a superstar. He's one of the best players in the league. I really like Gritty. Holmgren has turned out to be better than I expected he would be. And I even like the guy Dort as a perfect complementary piece. He plays defense. He shoots threes. He's the perfect kind of guy to fit in with a bunch of good players. I like everything about this team.
Except their youth.
Youth.
And experience in the playoffs. I think they'll probably win the first round. Yeah. And then we'll see who they play.
To me, this is sort of like there was about a 3 to 4 year period where the Nuggets had Jokic and they never could quite get over the top in the playoffs because they just weren't ready to win in the playoffs.
And Murray kept getting hurt. And Murray was always hurt, right?
Murray was hurt. But 3 or 4 years from now, we could be talking about the Thunder in the same way we were talking about the Nuggets a couple of years ago.
Yeah, assuming they can keep all of or most of them together. Yeah.
All right, let's move to the Nuggets, and they'll be playing the Lakers and LeBron in that series.
They've handled the Lakers pretty easily, or not easily, but pretty consistently the last couple of years. My feeling is they'll probably win in 6.
The Lakers always give them good games.
Yeah.
But what I remember is last year, again, getting back to Anthony Davis, and as much as Anthony Davis, after they won the bubble title, the next year he was not good. He was out of shape. He got injured. It was a mess. And since then, he's been much more consistent and stayed on the court longer and played through small injuries. So you have to really respect Davis. And I remember last year, a lot of people saying, Anthony Davis is the one big man that should be able to give Jokic problems.
Yeah.
And Jokic dominated that series.
Yeah. That's not where they need to stop. That's not who they need to stop necessarily. They might give Jokic what he does and see if you can shut down Murray. So
are you saying that you would take the Danny Hurley approach from the championship game?
Yeah.
Say, AD, you got Jokic 1-on-1, but we don't give up any threes, and we stop Porter and we stop Gordon from getting dunks and that's what I would try and do, is make Jokic beat you by himself, and that's hard to do. I mean, it just really is. But the funny thing is, Denver consistently reminds me of the Portland Trail Blazers with Walton. They have the big guy at the top that can kind of do everything, and then they have all these other guys that have a designated role, and they do them really well. And if they can stay healthy, they're just really hard to beat because they're well constructed, well coached, and they all buy into what they're doing. There you go. They all buy their roles.
Yeah, right. They all know
Gordon has accepted he's not going to be the first, second, or third scoring option.
Yeah, but I can play defense and rebound, right?
And if you put a small guy on me, I'm going to go to the basket. I'm going to get a lot of layups and a lot of dunks.
Yeah, and he runs the floor for a big guy really well. So, I mean, Jokic gets a rebound, he takes off, and next thing you know, he's got a dunk. So, on one hand, my first comment about this was last year the Nuggets handled the Lakers. They were a lot of close games, but at the end of it, it was a very quick series. And I didn't think that the Lakers had done anything dramatic to change that storyline, right? Right.
But Ted, the one thing that concerns me about the Nuggets, and going into last year, I was never a huge Bruce Brown fan. But in that series and the playoffs in general, he was a huge piece off the bench. And they also had the veteran Jeff Green. Those two sort of veteran guys gave them great performance. Then they folded in Christian Braun and a little Reggie Jackson. And they got enough because that starting five is the best starting five in the league. But then they got enough off the bench that they won games easily. Brown and Green are both gone. Braun is still an effective player, but now it's all up to Reggie Jackson and then Drew's brother Justin and this young guy Peyton Watson, who's very athletic. Can they get enough off the bench like they did last year?
Well, they've kind of I think they were undefeated against the Lakers during the regular season. This year. So
but my question is, let's assume they get past the Lakers. Do they have enough to win the championship again off the bench? That's my question.
We have to find out, because those guys aren't veterans. You don't have a track record for some of them. And maybe the starters play a few more minutes to offset that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's Denver to me is the best team in the West, but they're not head and shoulder. They're not like the Celtics. The Celtics are should be head and shoulders above everybody in the East.
Yeah.
But Denver's not that way, but they're still better.
All right, let's move on to the 3-6, which is a fascinating one. You've got another one of those unexpected teams, the Timberwolves with the 3 seed, against the team that a lot of people thought were going to be the best team in the West, which is the Suns. And the Suns at one point were in the playoff. And I remember when we did our last Millions episode and we talked about the NBA, at that time I said you were going to have, at that time it was Luka, Durant, LeBron, and Curry were all in the playoff. So you're going to have 2 of those 4 not in the playoffs. And now we're so Curry's out. The Suns, I can't tell if it's a lack of a point guard. I can't tell what it is. That team is less than the sum of its parts.
Yeah. Point guards matter. The other part of that is I look at that team and I they had a lot of injuries early, so they've sort of been trying to get it together as the season wore. I look at that team and I see a team of veteran guys who think to themselves, much like the Phillies do in baseball, we just have to get to the playoffs and then we're fine. Because we're constructed. We know how to win in the playoffs. Or know how to be in the playoffs. And I think that's what hey, we're in. Now it's good. Now we're good. Now that's the flipping the switch kind of thing. And.
So when Karl Anthony Towns went down,
yeah,
they were the number 1 seed.
Right.
And I was very impressed with how Anthony Edwards, while he didn't keep them as the number 1 seed, he kept them as the number 3 seed in a very competitive West. And to me, Anthony Edwards has played himself into being a legitimate MVP contender.
Right.
Because I like the fact that Anthony Edwards, one, is one of those guys that says, give me the ball at the end of the game. I'll go win it for you. I love that about him. But also there were some games that he helped win by making huge defensive plays.
Yeah.
We talk about who has the best player in a series. And I understand Durant is going to go down as one of the top at least 20 players in the history of the NBA, maybe higher. Devin Booker can go for 50 any night.
Right.
Bradley Beal's a really good third piece. Is it possible the best player in this series is going to be Anthony Edwards?
Could be because of you would say it's Durant, but with his age.
So here's a question for you, Ted.
Yeah.
You're Frank Vogel.
Yeah.
Okay. It's 105, 104.
Yeah.
20 seconds left. You're down a point.
Yeah.
You got 20 seconds left.
Right.
You giving the ball to Booker, you giving the ball to Durant?
Durant. Okay. Now, Booker may not like it, but Durant's walking backwards into the Hall of Fame. He's getting the ball. You built this team around him, right? You brought him in to be the centerpiece of the team that's supposed to win. So, you have to give it to him at least the first couple times.
Okay.
It's not to say he won't pull a Michael Jordan and dump it off to Booker.
I get it. Maybe you put them in a
I got a question. I got a question for you. It's 105, and there's 15 seconds left and Minnesota has the ball. Who's covering Edwards? What's he about?
Who's become their best. Well, who's become their best defensive player is Grayson Allen.
Well, I don't think he can trip him to without getting a foul called late in the game like that.
You see what I love about
he's not big. He's not big enough. Edwards
he's not strong enough.
Yeah,
he's not
Edwards
strong
enough. How Edwards is what 6'7", 6'6"?
No, I don't think he's quite that big, but I think he's
he's really put together well. Yeah.
See, and Ted, this is
you gonna put Booker on him?
Booker would probably say, "Let me have him," but I don't think he could take. I think Edwards could take Booker.
I think it has to at that size. I think it has to be Beal because he's bigger.
Yeah, I don't know. See, Ted, here's the thing about the Suns, and we talked about this when they hired Frank Vogel. I think I sort of got the idea of hiring Vogel, which is we've got all the offensive talent we need with these three guys. Yeah. Now let's bring in a defensive coach. But this team, when the Lakers won the bubble title,
yeah,
I sensed that the Lakers had built or bought into Vogel's theories. I don't see that in the Suns. I don't see a tough team.
I wonder if what was that when Durant was in with the Nets and he and Kyrie
we're just going to coach ourselves.
Yeah, we're going to coach ourselves, and you wonder if he's brought that with him, and everybody, oh yeah, we like that plan, but none of those guys are defensive guys, right? That I mean, Durant plays defense. Beal plays defense, but they're not. That's not what they're. Michael Jordan loved defense. Kobe Bryant loved defense. They wanted to be on the all defensive team. You know, I don't think those guys love defense because defense is really just effort.
Yes. So see, and I really like Finch, the head coach for the Wolves, with Gobert at the rim. They play defense. It's a really good defensive team. Karl Anthony Towns is back, so they have a legitimate second scoring option.
I think the Wolves are good. I think the Wolves should win this.
Okay, you agree.
It's just a question of, are they ready to, take that next, because they've been in the playoffs and they haven't gone too far. Are they ready to take the step? And I think this might be the year. Okay.
See, when you said the Suns are going to be in the flip the switch mode, I thought you might kind of be thinking that the Suns are going to flip.
No, I think they think they can flip the switch.
Okay.
I don't necessarily agree with that. And I think that Minnesota is younger and they're more athletic and they're better, a better defensive team and all that. And with enough playoff experience that they should get through the first round.
And again, I like the Anthony Edwards impact on the offensive end, that when things get a little squirrely, just throw it to him and he'll go get us a shot for us. I love having in the playoffs where you've played 5 or 6 times already. Everybody knows the other sets. They're calling out the other plays teams before they come up the court.
Right.
At some point, that was the greatness about Jordan.
Yeah.
You could know you knew what he was running.
Yeah.
It was like the Cowboys with Jimmy Johnson. Yeah. Everybody knew what we were going to do. We just out-executed them.
Right. Yeah.
So that's what I like about it. But now, I mean, Durant is the ultimate in that.
Yes.
Because of his size and ball handling and who can block his shot.
Right. No, it would be if you're in the 7th game and it's 105 with 10 seconds left and Phoenix has the ball, you got to be pretty happy with that situation because you just have to give it to Durant, and he's one of the 5 or 6 best scorers ever. So
yeah. All right, let's go to the last series in the West. Another fascinating one to me, and I'm calling this the Jekyll and Hyde series between the Mavericks and the Clippers, because throughout the season there have been times when both of them have looked like the best team in the West, and other times they look like they weren't even a playoff team.
Yeah. Is Kawhi Leonard playing in this?
So he is questionable for the first game with right knee soreness and inflammation.
Okay. I saw something the other day to go to Dallas' side that said that Kyrie Irving, he missed a game, and they said he had played 31 in a row, which was his longest streak in like 10 years. Okay.
He's the next Lou Gehrig, Ted.
Wilt's rolling over. I'm 35 and I'm playing 42 minutes a night every night.
and not taking private planes everywhere.
No, right. Yeah.
Cramped into regular seats.
Yeah.
But now, Ted, it's interesting because.
Well, I'm going to say this. I did not think Dallas. At the beginning of the year, we talked about, I didn't like Dallas because I thought with one ball and those 2 guys, I didn't see how, but they have figured it out. Because if Kyrie Irving plays 30 games in a row and Luka played the same 30 games or most of the same 30 games, they figured it out. So they're a pretty good team. And much like the Sixers, the Clippers are not somebody you can give the benefit of the doubt to in terms of winning, because it's not anything to do with anybody on their team now. It's the whole history of the franchise. You can't the Clippers just seem to figure out a way to lose. And I hope when they move into their new building that they figure out ways to win. So
this in a way is a little bit like the Clippers, a little bit like the Suns. You look at Kawhi, Paul George, James Harden, Russell Westbrook.
Westbrook, is he back? Because didn't he break his hand or something?
I thought he was back.
Oh, is he back? Okay. I know he was out for a little while when he broke his hand. Yeah.
The names on the jerseys would say to you.
Well, if Westbrook's back, he's playing.
Right.
He's going to play with a cast on his hand. He doesn't care.
And here's what I would say. If this goes 7 games and Kawhi plays 6 of the 7 games,
the Clippers should win.
Because Kawhi, here's what I like about the Clippers in that situation. While I don't think he would cover him the entire game, 3 minutes left, tie game, fourth quarter, 7th game.
Yeah.
Ty Lue goes to Kawhi, you've got Luka.
And he can go to Westbrook and say, you get Kyrie.
Right. And those two guys.
You just want him to come off the court on the offensive or tell whoever has the ball, don't throw it to that guy.
But those two guys, and then Paul George is still left to
run free. Yeah.
Roam free, whatever. I love those matchups for the Clippers.
Yeah.
But Ted, in the last almost the second half of the season, the Clippers are 20-16, and the Mavericks are 24-10. And the Mavericks, while no one is going to confuse Luka or Kyrie for being Michael Jordan defensively,
no,
they have both started to play at least at a level of defensive intensity that the overall team defense has improved in the last 15, 20 games.
If your stars buy in, everybody else buys in.
So now here's the other thing I'll say about the Mavericks that I like, Ted. The last couple of years, we always talked about how they were so incredibly perimeter oriented.
Yeah.
I love the addition of Derek Lively, the kid from Duke, to run the floor, rebound, play rim defense. Then in the middle of the season, they bring in P.J. Washington and Daniel Gifford to give them even more interior depth.
Right.
I like those 3 guys as being – none of them have to score.
Yeah.
They just have to play defense and rebound in the paint. And they're all capable of doing that.
Yeah.
So then you surround them with Luka and Kyrie and Tim Hardaway, and I can't remember all the other shooters they have.
Yeah, but the thing is, if you're one of those 3 guys and you just move a little bit on offense and you pay attention, you're going to get a dunk or a layup because one of Kyrie or Luka is going to throw you the ball in a position where you have a dunk or a layup.
And Lively particularly runs the floor so incredibly well for a big man. He can just fly up and down the court. I thought that was one of the best drafts for a team need to fit that I've seen in a long time. I really like that pick for them.
Particularly in the middle back portion of the draft, where they're not drafting in the top 12 or whatever.
Right. Right. So, Ted, Kyrie and Luka combined for almost 60 points a game. That's a great starting point.
Yeah.
Then you just have to get, between the other 7 or 8 guys that play, they combine for 50 or 55 and,
well, in the playoffs, maybe not even that much.
Yeah. So, I mean, I there were times this year when the Clippers looked like the second best team in the West to the Nuggets.
Yeah, right.
And then as the season has gone on, they
have injuries and they've got a lot of personalities on that team too. That I think Paul George gave himself a new nickname. There's all sorts of things going on.
He's not playoff P anymore.
I think isn't he PG-13?
Is that what? Okay. Well, he's had that.
I actually like that one better.
That one actually works. Yeah. All right. So who are you taking in that series?
A lot less pressure on PG-13 than playoff P,
Yeah. I think I'd take the Mavericks in that series.
Yeah, I do. I think so. Yeah. Not surprised. It wouldn't surprise you if the Clippers win. It will, but I think if as a starting point, I think Dallas has a better chance. I think they're playing more playoff-oriented basketball.
Okay, so let's kind of sum this up, Ted. In the East, you're looking at a Eastern Conference final of the Celtics and the Sixers.
I again, if Embiid is, I'm putting a caveat on Embiid's health and conditioning and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So, but yeah, if all those things are if he's really ready and when he needs to, particularly against the Knicks, go down in the paint and be the big man that he's supposed to be, play play like Wilt, then I think that they should get to the conference finals.
I keep on looking for a team in the East that I like better than the Sixers, just to switch it up.
Well, if Giannis was healthy,
yeah.
And I mean, maybe he will be. Maybe he will be. Maybe he'll come back after a couple games and they'll get through the first round and he'll get,
if the Bucks win their first series and the Sixers win their first series, it'd be the Sixers and the Bucks in the second round. Okay. And if Giannis plays and if Embiid plays, that would be an interesting series because again, that's the kind of series that the Bucks have won and the Sixers have not. So that would be an interesting
Let's think about something about the Bucks too. Is if Giannis is out for 2-3 games. This is why you got Damian Lillard. He's making what, 50 million or whatever it is.
Some crazy number.
40. He's got to be looking at 40.
Yeah, he needs to go into Portland mode.
Yeah, right. He's got to just give me the ball. Yeah.
I think I'm with you, Ted. As much as I hate to say it for Robbie, because this is like the kiss of death when I pick an NBA team, but I think I kind of like the Celtics and the Sixers also in the Eastern Final. So now in the West. As much as we love the Timberwolves and the Thunder, I don't think either one of us think that they're like the Timberwolves. If they win, they play the Nuggets in the second round. Gobert provides a good matchup for Jokic.
Yeah, that would be a pretty good series, I think, because then you get into who can handle Edwards. He's the kind of the wild card.
I think the Western Final is Nuggets Mavericks.
Yeah.
That's who I have.
Yeah. That's okay. I mean, I was kind of lean. I was going to surprise you and say Timberwolves, but they are playing the Nuggets in the second round. So I thought it would be Nuggets and Timberwolves if they were opposite each other. But
I think in another year or two, the Timberwolves, they add a few pieces, they might get over the top. But right now, I still think the Nuggets are the best team. So I think we are looking at it Nuggets Celtics finals. Do you agree?
Yeah. I mean, I think the Celtics should be in the finals.
If they don't get to the finals,
then you got to fire the coach or something. Something's got to happen.
Something big's got to happen.
Yeah, right. And it won't be Drew Holiday leaving, I don't think.
No.
Nuggets, as it stands right now, I don't think the Mavericks can beat the Nuggets in 7 games. But injuries come up. It's a long time. It's I just think the Nuggets and the Celtics are the two most likely teams.
If that's the final, the Celtics have the home court advantage because they have the best record in basketball.
I don't think that's going to matter.
You think Nuggets?
Well, I'm just saying I don't think that's going to be that. I don't think that's going to be like the deciding factor. Didn't they have it that one year against the Warriors and still managed to or the Warriors went into Boston and won a game that they weren't supposed to win. Didn't they win the 5th game or whatever it was?
I do remember the Celtics were up 3-2. I think it was 3-2, and they went back to San Francisco and won both the games in San Francisco.
Yeah, maybe it was. Okay,
I might be remembering it wrong.
Yeah, I think it was 2-2, and we thought that the Celtics have to win Game 5 in the Garden, and they lost Game 5 in the Garden. I think that's what it was.
So I'm going for Nuggets repeat.
Okay, I'll pick the Celtics just to
make it interesting.
Just to make it interesting
because you love my guy Drew Holiday so much.
Well, would they win 65 games or something like that?
But Ted, I
like Porzingis plays such like a big man.
I like
7-4 shooting threes. Great.
I like everything about the Celtics except for their reliance on threes and the fact that they haven't done it yet. But they could run through the whole thing, beat the Celtics 4-1, and everybody say, "Okay, yes, they were the best team."
Yeah, nobody. The Nuggets hadn't done it until they did it. So so you always have to do it the first time at least once.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. All right, I think we're going to wrap it up there. Any other thoughts, Ted?
No, I don't think so. I got all my little shots in about Kyrie playing 31 games in a row, and whatever. The Porter kid.
There's the difference between you and I, Ted. I have to make sure that I get all my stats in.
You got to
make sure you get all your digs in.
Yeah. I mean, the Porter
kid.
You
got Doc R back in.
Yeah, Doc R. I like that one.
31 in a row.
I thought of that one the other day, and I was just, should I write that down, or do I think I can bring that out of the dustbin that is my memory?
I think that's fantastic. If they lose 4-1 in the Pacers,
well, if Giannis doesn't play, you have a
I don't care if Giannis doesn't play. Okay. I don't care. Doc's supposed to be a great coach. Figure it out.
All right. Well, like I said, you can win one game without your guy, but it's tough to win a series.
Yeah, that's true. All right, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up there. Thank you for listening. Please check us out on all of our social media platforms. We're on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. We also do a weekly podcast that you can find on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and Odyssey. And with that, we'll say good night, and we promise to do better next time.